Welcome everyone to episode 62 of the Chris Perish podcast. Once again, a big thanks to Downstate for that absolute banger of an intro there. Speaking of intros, this is the time where we thank our sponsors. Got to thank beercadewhyte for being the proud paying sponsor of the Chris Perish podcast. You can find them on the Instagram, on the Facebook, and of course on the Flesh at 10544 82nd Ave, locally in Edmonton. beercadewhyte, beercadewhyte all over the socials. And thank you to Turnbuckle Studios and the affiliation program for helping out and sponsoring the Chris Perish podcast. But you're not here for sponsorship, people. You're here because of the guest. You're here with one of the co-hosts of Between Two Beards. He is a member of the Love Wrestling family. We got Pluggo here today. Pluggo, thanks again for joining. I appreciate you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. If I could figure out how to use technology, I'd be even better. But I'm glad I'm here, and thanks for having me, man.
We're just getting older, and technology is just getting smarter, right?
Yeah, something either that, or I'm still not figured it. I don't know, but we got it figured out. We're here. I'm excited. Thanks again for having me, brother.
No, of course. Simpsons taught me there's an any key, and I'm still trying to figure where that is. So I don't know. But it's always fun to catch up, and obviously this is a recording episode that's obviously everyone's going to see this after the Royal Rumble. You and I are going to the Royal Rumble. But before we get to anything Royal Rumble related, I wanted to kind of get to know you a little bit more. And I wanted to find out just, first off, how did you get into podcasting? How did you get into the whole content creation world? And kind of where did all that start?
Oh boy. So I kind of started... I dabbled in it years and years ago, like in the sports side of things, like with like football and stuff. I actually, I trolled a guy that was asking a question about who the greatest sports team of all time was, and I said, "Well, the 0-16 Lions, of course, right?" And he was like, "Oh, you think this is so easy? Why don't you write something?" And I was like, "What?" So I wrote some random article. I don't even know if you can find it for this random guy. And I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. So then I dabbled in that for a little while. The thing with the sports side is it's just at the time it's a hard thing to maintain because there's 162 baseball games, there's 82 basketball games. It's kind of, once the game is passed, right, it's kind of hard to talk about it. So I ended up writing for a Houston Rockets blog for a hot minute. And no disrespect to them. They were good to me. It just became something that they wanted a certain thing and I just wanted to do different things. I have a different style. I have a different mentality. I'm not polished in a cookie cutter way. I like to just be ridiculous. So we parted ways, which was fine. And then I just kind of was like, oh, that's fun. Right. And then it just kind of dissolved from there. And then I just kind of stayed on the Twitter side of things, if you will. I always envisioned I'd always have the Twitter side of things, and then I'd never become an on-air personality. And that is kind of how I started. How I got into the wrestling side of things was I've always loved professional wrestling ever since I was a kid. I've always enjoyed it. I always tell this story, and I'm a guy that has to stay busy. I'm a guy that has to if the times are tough, I just have to do something to keep my mind off of that thing. And my wife and I were trying for a baby, and we had a miscarriage around 2017, 2018. And I just was trying, and I'm sitting at home and I'm just stewing on that. And I'm I need to do something wrestling. So I've been watching wrestling consistently, every week. And I was man, I'm gonna start putting my thoughts down. Just put my thoughts down. And so I started it very secretively. I didn't tell anybody who I was. I started all the pages because I thought if this doesn't pan out and this doesn't become something, or if I lose interest in 6 months, I don't want to tell everybody in the world about it, because then it's just Okay, you know, whatever. So I stayed in secret, so much so that I was tweeting about wrestling one day. Like, I was on my phone, I was doing this, and my wife like looks over my shoulder, and I go, "What's up?" Which every man knows, Chris, when you do that, her first thought is, "Who you talking to?"
Yeah.
And now my wife, bless her heart, Mrs. Pluggo, is the most unjealous woman of all time, and like trusts and believes in me. But in that moment, I'm doing this. She's like, "What's on your phone?" And I was like, "Oh, hey." This is gonna sound weird, but I started a wrestling like Twitter page. And I tweet about wrestling, and here's this page I've been doing on the side on Facebook. And she's like, "Why did you think to not tell me about that?" And I was just like, "Because I figured you'd think I was a big dork." And she's like, "Yeah, you are a big dork, but you shouldn't have to hide that kind of stuff from me." So that is the beginning of Wrestling Plug Inc. That was the initial name that I came up with. That was the initial page. It started to grow to a point where people were figuring out it was me. Like my friends and things were just like, "Is that you? Is that you? That seems like you." And I was like, "Yeah." And then it just kind of spiraled from there. Yeah.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I remember when I was a kid, I started a wrestling website to put the news and rumors and stuff like that. And
Heck yeah.
you go through Angel Fire. I heard that's still a thing. I've never used it since.
That is.
But
I always wanted to do something in some kind of space, and this is just the one that I fell in love with the most in the community that I was drawn to, and it's been wild. I mean, like I said, I started in secret, and here I am.
So how did you come up with the name Pluggo? Like, what were the origins behind the Pluggo name?
Okay, well, that's another fun one. No, so like I said, I started as Wrestling Plug Inc. I don't know why I thought that was a clever name. I thought the shortening WPI was a fun way to do it. Maybe, I don't know. It was the first thing I went with, and I'm usually the type of guy that like my first thought is my best thought. Why overthink it? If that's what you're feeling, just go for it. And so like I started to get into this community, into this space, and I start following different content creators and watching, streams. And one of those is Warren Hayes. Mr. Warren Hayes show. I stumbled across him on Fightful. I believe he was still there at the time. So I start watching his show, and I just love Warren's vibe. I think Warren is one of the best people in this business. He is so much fun. He does it his own way. And I was always in his chats, just hanging out. He has a really fun community. And one day he just goes, "You know what? I'm really sick of saying Wrestling Plug Inc. I'm just going to call you. It's too long. You're Pluggo. You're Pluggo okay. From now on." So I was still doing the WPI thing, and then like all of a sudden, like everybody kind of started calling me Pluggo based off of Warren's initial like spark of that name. And then I got linked up with Love Wrestling. I was still Wrestling Plug Inc. at the time. I was just John, which is my shoot name. One day I just said, "Hey Spencer, like I thinking about it now that I'm here, like I'm the personality behind this idea. Like, why don't I just brand it as Pluggo and just run with it?" And of course, Warren gave me his blessing and jokingly says, if he ever contributes anything to the wrestling world, it is my name. So yeah, I just decided like, I'm the guy behind it all. I'm the guy behind the page. Like I do all the work for Wrestling Plug Inc. at the time. Like that's just me anyway. I might as well just become this person, this persona.
Have you ever had like an inkling of joining like in as an active like performing role in wrestling, or were you always somebody that just appreciated like the outskirts of it?
Just the outskirts of it. I've never had the thought in my mind to become a professional wrestler. I know some content creators do, and more power to them. Don't get me wrong. If an opportunity came up, I've always joked that I would be willing to take a chair shot to the back one time if a wrestling promotion would want to book that. But no, I've never thought about it. I've never had that desire. I respect the art form. For me, wrestling is just one of the coolest things. It's fun. It's everything about it is subjective. Like whether you like someone or don't like someone, like no one's really wrong because it's a performance, right? It's not, it's a scripted television product. So no, I've never thought about mixing it up in the ring. I don't think I could take a bump. I'm going to leave that to the professionals.
Oh, when you get older, it's not like the bumps become any more fun. I
can tell you this. I went to a show in town, Warrior Wrestling, and they had like a free show meet and greet, and you could take pictures inside the ring at this particular meet and greet. And a buddy of mine was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't realize how high up that ring to turnbuckle ratio is. And the lady was like, do you want me to get you the stairs, sir? And that moment where you're like, no, I got this. Yeah. I don't need the stairs. What are you trying to say? So I made it in there. I rolled out of there all awkwardly and was worried for my knees for a few days. But yeah, no, I couldn't imagine doing that for a living. More power to you guys.
Yeah. You have to be a different side of crazy to really want to do that to your body. Like the older I get and the more I do it, you have to wonder just how much of an idiot you actually are. Like you just something has to you just have to have that thought. Listen, no normal person should want to do that to themselves.
I'll just stay in my basement talking about the professionals doing it opposed to me doing it because poof.
Hey, oof. I'm trying to make that transition, my friend. I get it. I can tell you, you've made the right choice.
Yeah, I'll stay on this side of the glass for sure.
That's funny. But yeah, no, I was always interested because I always wondered. I'm like, did you ever have a history of being a clown? I was like, where did this Pluggo name come from? And for whatever reason, I'm not too familiar. I don't remember it, but wasn't the clown's name on Billy Madison Pluggo?
Oh my God, I don't know. And I love Billy Madison. Now I'm going to have to look back. I have to watch that and find out. But no, I never had a history as a clown. A class clown, maybe. Degenerate, sure. But just Morin said it one day and everybody in his community started saying it. And it just made sense for me to go. And then, of course, when you're having conversations, there's more of a face to the name, more personal. And maybe that helped my content get better. I don't know, having more of a face behind it and more of a personality behind it. But It is what it is, and here we are.
Well, I mean, and I hope you take this as a compliment, but I do think, from the time that we've known each other, what I do know of you is that you are just such a positive, fun-loving, let's have fun no matter the situation kind of a person. And I think that is just such an attraction, not only to you, but anything you do. So I think you're not only taking the Pluggo and running with it. I think you're making Usain Bolt look slow.
How dare you? How dare you say I'm a positive? No, man, I definitely try to be. There's plenty of negative in the space. Mm-hmm. I try to look at wrestling from a more fun perspective and more off the wall thoughts. Now, if people want to don't get me wrong. I've had my negative thoughts and negative opinions on things that have gone on in wrestling and whatever it may be, but I try to err towards positivity. I try to err towards more of the fun side of it than that way. Cause it's just what I would want to do. That's what I would want. I don't go to wrestling to be mad.
Yeah.
I don't watch wrestling to be pissed off. I'd like to watch it to have some fun.
It's actually funny that you say that because I've always been someone that was so passionate about what I do. And sometimes I get overly passionate about it to the point where maybe you get defensive, maybe you get a little bit stuck in your ways. And it actually wasn't until I became a father, till I started kind of just appreciating what I did have, opposed to being greedy or jealous about the things I didn't have. Did becoming a father change any of the ways that you looked at professional wrestling or even podcasting in general?
Well, it's funny you say that because becoming a father is the reason that I started watching it more intently. Because I was home all the time. opposed to out partying it up back in the day. I would just say this. I don't know if it's changed how I watch things. Like, it's pretty cool though. Like I have 4 kids. They all, to the varying degree, enjoy wrestling or understand what I do. My youngest though has absolutely been drawn to it like a butterfly. So for me, I'm happy with where wrestling is at right now. And I know everybody always clamors for the old days and the Attitude Era and how that was the best. But for me, it's nice that I can sit down with my youngest and we can watch a program and I don't have to worry too much about it. Obviously, he doesn't get to watch some of the edgier stuff that other companies put out, but he loves WWE. He gets a kick out of like checking out all my stuff behind me. And so, no, I don't know if it's changed how I create content. I still kind of just do me, but I definitely know that they are watching because I have, the wife will text me and be like, yeah, the boys think it's so cool that you're on TV right now. So like it does, I do kind of, make sure that I keep a mind's eye of like, you never know who's watching, and definitely my kids are. And I want it to be something that they can look at and go, yeah, my dad's a goofball and he's ridiculous, but at least he was like fun about it. And he wasn't, off the wall where it's embarrassing. Like he's embarrassing because he's our dad, not embarrassing because he did something stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hope that he's like, I love him because he does something stupid every now and then. Like I kind of hope. I mean,
listen, as a father of 2 teenagers, I do know now when you get the eye roll, kind of like, he really, Dad, that you're doing something right.
Right. So it's funny you say that because I've always like when I come up with ideas and I'm like, yeah, that might be a little bit silly. And then if my wife ever gave me the eye roll, I'm like, okay, it's a keeper.
Listen,
it's representing normal to looking at me like I'm an idiot, and that's exactly what I was going for. So
yeah, you gotta have somebody that gets Mrs. Pluggo without a doubt. Without her, this isn't happening. Like I'm not where I'm at. She's my number 1 fan. She's never wavered on any ridiculous idea I may have thrown out there or had. She's maybe judged me, but like in the nicest way possible. Like, what is going on? What is this thing that you're? And I'm just like, it's wrestling. Don't worry about it. But no, she's very supportive, and the kids are super supportive on it, and they get a kick out of it. So it's fun to like kick on YouTube for the little ones and be like, Dad's on TV. Not really, but yeah, you're not wrong. So
there's always something different about like when because I know a lot of like content creators, we use like laptops, computers, stuff like that, but once you actually see it like live on a big TV, like it is cool. And
yeah, especially to my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, that's awesome. He didn't know my name. He didn't know I was Pluggo until the other day. He knows who I am, but he goes, aren't you hanging out with your friend Pluggo today? And I was like, I'm Pluggo. And he's like, yeah. I was like, whatever works for you, buddy. But he's upstairs right now playing with, I got him into wrestling figures. We went wrestling figure hunting yesterday. I took him to the mall, and my wife's like, what if you turned this kid into? And I was like, I wish I would have put physics books in front of him or put some kind of like an algebra book in front of him, because the way he has gravitated to wrestling, he throws out stuff all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, no, totally. How do you know about that? And he's like, I watch it. He goes, I watch it on YouTube. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's still wild to see when I'm on live on Instagram, I'm looking at and I see my nephews on there. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I think they already know that. They already know what they get.
Right. Yeah, they know what they know what they signed. The little ones know what they signed up for. They can't pick their dad. It's got to deal with them.
You touched on getting into this through sports, and what are the teams that you follow? Because we always see that you always have different hats, different shirts, all these different collections. But who are the teams that you actually root for on an everyday basis?
Well, I am a Chicago Cubs fan, so that's my baseball team. I'm a Houston Rockets fan in basketball, which I got a Lakers hat on, which is weird, right? That's the vibe. I don't have an NFL team. I like NFL, but I don't have a team. I need one. We keep joking on Beards that I need to just pick one for the season. Notre Dame football, Notre Dame sports is because I'm from South Bend. So as the time of this recording, they have a big game tomorrow, and God, I hope they win. Because I will be a sad panda if they don't, but I'll get over it because that's just the nature of the beast. So yeah, hockey. I grew up as a Penguins fan, quote unquote, but I don't follow it enough to like have a team. Although the Mighty Ducks is my favorite movie of all time, so that's a weird thing to not have a hockey team, but that's your favorite movie. So yeah. I like different stuff. If I don't hate you, I'll wear you. That's pretty much my mantra. So there's only a few things I wouldn't wear if given to me. So
do you want to share what's on that?
Yeah, it's the St. Louis Cardinals. I'll never don St. Louis Cardinals gear. I'll never don Chicago White Sox gear. You will never catch me in Michigan maize and blue ever. That's really about it.
Okay, so it's not a big list, but it's a select.
No, yeah, it's not a big one, but yeah, that's about it right there.
Okay, so we got that. I was so hoping none of the teams I like are on there because I was like, oh man, I don't want you to be an enemy of mine.
Nope. Those are just really the three. That's about
but then again, like if you're I always say this: if somebody I knew loved the team that like is a rival of mine, I hope they give me the same hate like they would any other fan from my fan base, because that's just respecting the game and the rivalry.
That's right.
It's funny that you said Notre Dame, because if it wasn't for the movie Rudy, I don't think I ever would have watched Notre Dame football. But I mean, it's funny how those movies like kind of bring you and introduce you to the sports, because I think it was definitely Rudy that brought me to Notre Dame football. So I have a soft spot for Notre Dame. And then you watch all these other movies, and then you're just like Rookie of the Year with the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rowan Gardner, baby. Oh, yeah. I love those movies, too. But, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you found Notre Dame football. Hopefully we can get this win tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm pulling for it. Hey, I'm a bit, as we all know, I'm a big Saints fan. That's why you see the black and gold. If you're rocking gold on your helmets, I mean, it's a soft spot, right?
There you go.
Austin Powers said it. I had gold.
That's right.
I know it's gold. But, it's a movie. Awesome. You did. You mentioned Between Two Beards, and we know that that kind of got its start in Love Wrestling. So I kind of wanted to go back into that. How did the introduction to Love Wrestling happen for you? And then, in the same breath, take us to how Between Two Beards came to be.
Oh boy. So with Love Wrestling, again, like I spoke about Warren earlier, I followed Warren for a long time. He did a podcast with Spencer Love, who runs Love Wrestling, and I just really enjoyed their back and forth and the vibe that they both kind of had. So I started following Spencer, and Love Wrestling, I don't think was a thing at that time. I think it was just about to start, or they were, because my thing when I started out was like, I never thought I would be in this position to be on podcast or be doing things, publicly. It was more of just, I always retweeted opportunities and retweeted things and, just pushing stuff out to plug people, like, help grow the thing that I loved, because I'm always a fan of, if there's more of it, that's awesome. There's more eyes on the product, even better. So I started following Love Wrestling when it started, and I just remember one day Zach Ralph, who was the host of NWA's Power Out, rest in peace, was looking for a co-host to help with that show, and I retweeted it out saying, hey, this is a cool opportunity, these guys are awesome, somebody should jump on this. And he DMs me and he goes, well, why don't you just do it? And I was like, okay. I, at that point, have only done a few things with the Crazy Wicked Pinball Crew, Throwback, and all those dudes from back in the day when he was doing his thing. So I hadn't really done anything. And those guys just let me be whatever I wanted to be, right? Like they were like, oh, there's Pluggo. He doesn't pay attention to this stuff. He's just being him. But this was like, okay, these guys are serious, and I got to sit down and I got to take notes. So I'm like, yeah, I guess I can do it. Sure, why not? So I'm like sitting there at 6:05, scribbling down everything that's happening on this show because I don't want my first appearance with Love Wrestling to be like, oh, we're never having this dude back. Like, what the hell was that, right? So, like, I'm just hammering it away. I don't take notes for anybody, let alone, wrestling stuff. So I did it. I did my vibe. I guess Zach enjoyed the vibe that I brought. He said, hey, listen, we'd WrestleMania's around the corner. We'd love to bring you in. We're trying to push more streams and do more reactions and things. And we'd love to have you come on. And I was like, oh, wow. So, of course, Mrs. Pluggo, check this out, honey. Like, this is crazy, right? And she's like, yeah, you should go for it. Why not? And I was like, oh, okay. So I started doing reaction streams because I'm the type of person too, like if you bring me into something, like I want to be able to do it. I don't want to just be like, I'm in and then just not do things. So like, I was like, anything you need. And they were like, well, we need somebody for this. And I was like, yep, I'm in. I'll just do it. So that week, I think I did like 4 or 5 streams and I've never done that. And I was like, oh my goodness. But on one of those streams, the man, the myth, the legend himself, JPJ, was on said stream. I'd never met him, never spoke to him. He was already in on Love Wrestling at that point. I think it was like night 2 of WrestleMania or something at that point. And he messages me after the show and he's like, hey man, I really enjoyed your vibe. We have a similar style. You've got, we're similar age. I think we have similar interests. Like, would you want to do something here at Love Wrestling? Just us? And at that point I was like, yeah, like, sure. But in my mind, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know. I was like at this point, I just did some like one-off random interviews in my car, right? Like I was interviewing people in my car because it was the quietest room in the house.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, sure. Of course. Like, well, yeah, we'll toss around some ideas. And then kind of left him on red for like 2 weeks. Not because I didn't want to do something. I just didn't know. He'd already had a show going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, he's definitely in this more than I am. I don't know. And then he goes, hey man, what about that idea that you want to do something? And I'm like, okay, yeah, we should do something. And I was like, between two beards, like I threw the name. I was like, this is the name that we both have a beard. Let's just have a show Thursday nights. Cause at that time there was nothing on Thursday nights. Just an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever it may be, where we just don't necessarily recap everything. We just kind of do our own brand of things. And I was like, there are so many people that are super good at recapping a show or running down what happened or, breaking down a move set. I just want us to come on and have a good time. Like whoever shows up. Like, let's just be off the wall about it. Let's have some drafts. Let's talk about movies. Let's just kind of talk about everything and make it kind of like, and then him and I like tossed around idea after idea and it like started to gel and it started to click. And then we pitched to Spencer and he was cool with it. And we were off to the races, man.
And you've been going on for, what is it, close to 2.5 years, 3? No, even longer, maybe 3 years? 190 episodes as of last show. Awesome. That doesn't include any like off the wall things that we've done. So we've probably, him and I have probably done over 200 to close to 250 episodes of some type of content together. Well, first off, congratulations. And that's just amazing. A lot, like you don't see a lot of shows stay for that long, but the ones that are, that you have something special. What pieces of advice can you give to people who are maybe starting out that in this field? Because like you said, over 200 episodes, there comes a lot of things that kind of test whether it's a relationship, whether it's the show, whether it's, within of like, do I want to keep going? What is your advice to people who are just starting out or even thinking about getting involved? Because like you said, 200 episodes, that's a commitment right there.
Well, and that's right there. Like I always tell people, commit to what you could commit to, right? Like if you say you're going to be there every Thursday night at 8:00, be there every Thursday night at 8:00. Obviously things do come up. Your community will understand if you have an emergency and you can't do the show. But with JPJ and I, our main mantra was like, hey, every week we're going to be there. We're going to put out an episode. And that was step one. And you just got to find somebody that you jive with. And like him and I bounce a wild, wacky idea off of him, and he will refine it to make it work. Like we're good at the straight man, goofy man shtick, if you will. So like, just my advice is just commit to the bit, whatever. If you want to do a monthly show, do a monthly show. You don't have to do it every week. We landed on Thursdays at 8. We wanted to do it weekly. It became the thing that it was. And for hell or high water, we've been there for 200 episodes almost officially. And, there's things that come up. Like if I have a sporting event I have to go to for one of my kids, like we can find a co-host to fill in. We can plug and play. It's just do what you want to do. Like what makes you feel good. Don't try to do a show that you think people want to see. Do what you want to do and find the people that think like you. That's how I do it. I don't think anything has to be anything. I think it can be whatever you want it to be and just kind of roll with it. So I'm pretty lucky in the sense that my co-host on Between Two Beards, JPJ, is awesome. And as wacky as the ideas I get, he's generally down for most of them. Blair, my co-host with For Exposure, I've been doing that for over a year now with him. Same thing. Like you just got to find people that you like working with that have like-minded ideas and just go for it and do what makes you feel good, man.
Yeah, and that's where I wanted to get to next is For Exposure. And with Blair, is it Pacheco?
Pacheco, my man.
Okay.
My man. Big bad Blair, baby.
I see the name and I'm like, oh, it has to be like Isaiah Pacheco, right? Nope.
It might be, and I might have been pronouncing it wrong this entire time. Fun fact about Blair, he didn't know my first name for the first 3 months of our show. He just called me Pluggo. He had no idea I was a real person.
It's funny you say that because Spencer still will not call me by anything other than my stage name. So it's quite funny. I've known the guy for almost a decade, and he's like, no,
that's how it works.
But how did that relationship and show come about? Because what I love about that show, it's a completely different vibe. Especially from Between Two Beards, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, you can check that out on Love Wrestling on Thursday nights. It is the flagship show of Love Wrestling.
It's not bad. It's not bad. No, I'm biased.
But yeah, no. Well, first off, what is For Exposure, and can you let all the people know where and when you can see it?
Well, For Exposure is an independent wrestling show. We focus more on the independent wrestling side of things. Every Saturday morning at 10. It does vary from weekend to weekend with that. As much as I'm with Beards, it's like if you could be there Thursday at 8, be there Thursday at 8. With this, we try to. If there's more shows on Saturday than Sunday, we will move it, but we will let you know that we're moving it so that you can be readily available, because the way the independent wrestling scene works is sometimes you gotta move around to fit the card, so to speak. But Blair's awesome. Like he came into the fold after, I guess you would call me an elder statesman of Love Wrestling. I guess, I don't know. He came into the fold. He was doing his own thing, Grainmaker Wrestling Podcast, and I just remember I was sitting around a couple years ago now, and I was just like, I was watching the Collective Weekend, and I'm just like, there's so much great talent on this, great stuff on this independent wrestling scene. Like, we're not covering it as a website like we should be. We wanted to get Blair more involved in things, and I just was like, this is a great idea for us to fill a spot. We didn't have anything going on Saturday mornings, and that's the vibe. Saturday morning wrestling. Come grab your coffee. We're gonna talk about people you may not know about, but that's the idea. We want to help grow independent wrestling. We want to put over indies talent that you may not see every day, so you can get more exposure on them. So we do it for the exposure, and then, of course, Love Wrestling has its own wrestling promotion. So it's like, well, we'll couple that in too, and we'll do the previews for that. We'll do the reactions to that and just talk more about what you don't see on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Well, and Tuesdays and Saturdays. It's wrestling's every day of the week. But yeah, so Blair and I, that was just, and we like to keep it tight to like an hour. that way you can kind of come in, get your Saturday over with, and do whatever you got to do for the rest of the day. But yeah, that's just how we roll.
Who's since the show started, you said you talk a lot about the up and comings of professional wrestlers and talent. Have there ever been a wrestler that you've talked about, and then now you fast forward all the way to present time, now they're maybe signed, and there's somebody that maybe the public is actually getting a chance to see?
Oh boy. Now you're putting me on the spot. Not that I have it, not that we have any saying or help in that aspect, but somebody that Blair and I were very, very high on for a long time was like Megan Bain. I know that seems like that's not super obscure or anything, but she just made an appearance on AEW last week. It looks all intents and purposes like she's going to get signed. So it is cool to like sit there, or like Blake Christian is another guy that we're super high on for the, early part of our talks. And then now he's, in ROH, Ring of Honor, doing that. Like, it's just cool to kind of like watch these talents like start at the, I don't want to say the bottom, but start on the indie scene down here where maybe they're not getting all the opportunities and watching them grow. So it's cool. That's what I like about it, because it's fun to like see a talent that you're like, oh, I saw them in a bingo hall and now they're on WWE television. Like, it's a wild thing,
Yeah, and that's why I always say like independent wrestling is so incredible for so many things. I remember going to my first show, I think it was either at the end of 2002 or early 2003, and I saw this kid, and he was, I think, 18 or 19 years old, but he was very, very nervous, but at the same time his athletic ability was just amazing. Sure often not, the guy's name was Kenny Omega.
Heck yeah.
And I didn't even know at that point like who he was. I'm just like, well, this guy is like Superman in the sense of how quick he is. And then all of a sudden 10 years later, I'm seeing him go to New Japan, and I'm watching him and Chris Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm staying up till 4 a.m. local time. And it's just crazy, because you never know when you go to an independent show who you're going to see. You have no idea like the genesis of a career that you're currently watching, but it's pretty validating as a fan, kind of just to be in that crowd and see that person for the first time. So
it gives you a sense of like, it gives you a sense of pride going like, I was there and I got to see it. It just makes you feel more connected to that person, that you're like, oh, I saw, and I saw that person there was 14 people in the crowd and they still were working as hard there as they are here. And it's just fun. My first independent wrestling show, fun fact, I didn't know independent wrestling existed until my buddies threw an independent wrestling show in town, and Zach Call was in the main event, who's the lead singer, the guy who sings your song.
Yeah.
Small world, right? And I was like, this dude is so awesome. And I didn't know that world existed. And it's crazy how that little interaction and going to that show has kind of like sparked my like, oh man, look at this world of wrestling.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because I remember I was down in Las Vegas for my brother-in-law's stag at the time, and there were some up-and-coming just bands, right? And sure enough, I'm cool into music. I'm listening to like just about everything, especially if it was rock. I'm all into rock alternative. And then sure enough, one band was Adelita's Way. The other band was Downstate. Had nothing to do. This is over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you listen to them now, and Adelita's Way, like they made a big time. I remember watching them in MMA, and they had that big song. I think it was Invisible that came out. And then now Downstate, they're like the soundtrack to pro wrestling. They sing just about everyone's song. And then I had no idea that, all these times later, our worlds are going to reconnect, and you get a chance to not only see what they're able to do from a pro wrestling thing, but now they sing the theme songs to everyone who's a who's who in wrestling, and just happen to say, oh yeah, we got some extra time, we'll record one for you too.
Heck yeah.
So I'm appreciative of that.
Oh, it's very cool how things work out. I love it.
Yeah, this world is a very amazing way of intertwining itself, and it's really up to you to kind of to find out if kind of where you stand and where you are. And I think that's such a beauty of not just with wrestling, but also the whole circuit of what we do, because you have no idea. Well, at one point you could just be enjoying a show. The other point you could be working with that person.
True.
It's crazy. Now, are you, when it comes to the podcasting, are you a goal-oriented person? Like, do you have like a list of goals? Like, I go back to that famous list from Cody Rhodes when he left WWE. He had the big list of the guys that he liked to work with. Do you have like a list of people that you would like to work with in the podcasting aspect? Do you have like a 5-year, 10-year plan, or just goals in general that at one point you do like to reach?
Have we met, Chris? No, I do not. No, I do not have goals. For a long time, and still to this day, to an extent, I've just been kind of going with the flow. Like, I didn't really have like an idea of what I wanted to do when I started. I just kind of like started doing it and jumping into it, and then like it's evolving to a point where now there's like more things that I should maybe be doing that I'm not, or maybe I'm not. I don't know. I've never really thought about it in like a 5 to 10 year plan sort of thing. I never thought I'd be at the point I'm at now where, like you said, we're going to be at the Royal Rumble this weekend and I get to go cover the event. Like, that's wild to me. Is there goals? Sure. Do I know what they are? No. I bet that, like, I'd like to be able to do this more frequently, and wouldn't it be cool if this could be like a thing that I just did as a full-time content creator? But will it happen? I don't know. And maybe that's my own downfall, maybe that's what it is, but I do know that I'm having fun, and that's still the main goal, is to just have fun with it. In terms of working with anybody on a list, not necessarily. I've gotten pretty fortunate to be able to talk to pretty much everybody so far that I've like, oh, that'd be a really cool person to interview, or that'd be a really cool person to work with. There's still, of course, I would love to talk to, like, Mick Foley's on my Mount Rushmore. If you're watching, by all means, I'd love to interview you at one point in life, or stuff like that, dream interviews. But as far as like a list, no. Should I write one down? Am I supposed to? I do not know. Does everybody? But I will tell you, though, as it does evolve and as it does get a little bit more and more and bigger and bigger and bigger, that I have kind of maybe not hard and fast refined what I do, but just make sure that I'm doing the right things, and make sure that if I say I'm going to do something, I try to do it and be more organized with my week to week thing, but yeah, because I don't know. I'm still kind of just rolling with it.
No, I think that's awesome, though, because, and I kind of put this in the realm of, there are people that plan out their life. There are people that are just enjoying the days that they have. And I think that's exactly what you're kind of saying in this realm. Like, you're just enjoying what you're doing at this current moment. And if it happens to go anywhere, you're willing to jump in the car and hit the acceleration pedal.
Sure.
And I think that's awesome. Like, I really think that's awesome, because you have I don't think you really have an idea of the destination until you see it on the ride.
Yeah. And I've always, even outside of content creation and even in this life in general, for better or for worse, like, I don't want to. Goals are cool, and I respect people that have them, and I love that for them. But like, if I set a goal and I don't reach it, I just like, oh man, because I don't want to be so focused on this that I don't see the rest of it. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I'm so focused on I want to be in the main event of WrestleMania, and I don't approach the and I don't enjoy the rest of the ride because my only goal is to get there. I like I said, I'll talk to anybody. Anybody and everybody that wants to talk to me. It's just an honor that people want to talk to me. So like, I'm more than happy to do any interview requests that I get if I can make it work. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody that may come across the desk, so to speak, even if I'm not super familiar with that person, I will do the research, I will do the work to get to know that person, so that when we do talk, I don't just go, hey, what's up? Thanks for coming. I'll make that conversation its own. And I've met a lot of really cool people doing that. Like, I've gotten to do some really fun things with that strategy. So is that strategy for everybody? Maybe not, but it works for me, and that's what we're doing.
That's awesome. Now, with that being said, you said you talk to anybody.
Yeah, I will.
How's Spencer's office, and how are you always finding yourself in there? And let's and then on this note of that, do you not have a goal of blowing budgets? And
busted. Yeah, you got me there. Yes, the goal is to blow. So here's how that goes. So Spencer Love, for better or for worse, is one of the nicest people in wrestling, in the world. I would venture that outside of the wrestling space, which I only really know him through wrestling, I bet he is a sweetheart of a man. He lets me and JPJ and Blair, anybody that I work with specifically, I don't know about anybody else, but anybody that he kind of lets us do whatever we want all the time. Now, do I take those words that he gives us because he trusts us, and do I run with them? Absolutely. Do I make him want to pull his hair out? Do I try to book things? Like, did we not spend 20 minutes on For Exposure one day trying to book Will Ospreay in Love Wrestling? Yeah, we sure did. Have we, not had professional wrestlers come on and threaten to come to Love Wrestling headquarters and beat up Spencer? Sure, we have. But so that's how you end up in the office all the time with the boss. But all press is good press, right? But all seriousness, Spencer, I tell him all the time, and he never takes the compliment. Without him and just taking a chance on a guy like me and letting me do like whatever I could think of up here to help the site or to just something I want to do, he's always there with what can I do to help you with that. Like I said earlier when I was writing for that Rockets blog, like they wanted it a certain way. Spencer wants it a certain way, but wants it the way that you want, you know what I mean? He wants it. There's certain things we have to hit for sure, metric wise, but he wants it to be your thing that you enjoy doing, because once you stop enjoying doing it, he can tell like, okay, this isn't for you. So Spencer's been very cool. Lets me just, if I say, hey, I want to write an article, go ahead. You want to, hey, I want to jump on Twitch and do a watch along, go for it. Just tell me what you need. I trust that you're going to get it done. And honestly, like, that's awesome. Like, that's such a cool thing to have from somebody that lets you spend all of his money.
How much
spend all of his money? How much fun do I have spending Spencer's money, or just in general?
Let's go with Spencer's money first.
Hey, you got to spend Spencer's money to make money. Am I right? Spending other people's money is far and away better than me spending mine that I don't have. But no, it's always a good fun with him. And that was one of the things when I first kind of started and when Beards was evolving, he was very instrumental in it becoming what it's become, because he could have easily said, like, and again, we're new here at this point. We're definitely new to the scene, definitely new to Love Wrestling. And I'm like, let's take shots at the boss on the show. Right? Like, let's take digs at Spencer. Let's put him in memes. Let's make fun of him as, you know what I mean? Like, and he was like, you guys do it, obviously do it within good taste. It's not over, it doesn't cross lines. It doesn't offend people. Go for it. And he's always been happy to be a part of it or jump in on the joke. And you know what? That's pretty, so yeah, I have fun spending his money.
Well, I mean, you can't get Spencer without spend, right?
That's right. That's right. That's what I'm telling. That's what I'm saying. He one day he'll see the vision. One day he'll understand.
If
not,
you gotta There has to be a good line in there, but if it doesn't make sense, then you got to spend some cents. I don't know.
Something like that. But basically,
There's
whatever.
But I've seen a lot of clips with you at events with WWE and getting a chance to meet and to, as you say, cover events. What has been your favorite one you've been able to do? And has there been a favorite person that you've got to talk to?
Oh, well, okay, so the first event I ever got to do was Fastlane, and I got to go as media, cover the event, and do the press conference afterwards, and I got to do that with Mrs. Pluggo, which was really cool. It was the first opportunity I'd gotten, and I didn't want to go with anybody but her. So she was like, "You really want to go with me?" I was like, "Absolutely." She's my favorite person to watch wrestling with because she's just off the wall and doesn't understand what's going on. But she's like, "That doesn't make sense. Why are they doing that?" I'm like, "It's wrestling. It makes sense. Just trust me." But no, that was fun. And I got to like meet Byron Saxton, and I'm the guy that got Cody Rhodes to Geet at that press conference.
You were.
I don't get credit for it because WWE keeps taking those videos down, but that's okay. I know in my heart of hearts it was me. So that was a really fun one. In terms of like full coverage, the first one was SummerSlam, where we got to go with me and JPJ and do we did Between Two Beards, and our idea was simple. It was like, hey, how are we going to stand out at this? Because you're going to go to this press run and everybody's going to ask the same questions, right? Everybody's going to, and that's okay. Like, I don't think anything different. I just like, how do you stand out while doing the same thing as everybody else? And I said, you and I are going to do it together. And he goes like, what? I was like, yeah, let's do it together. Him and I sat down and we hammered out this idea of like, okay, we're going to have him literally stand between two beards. And he was like, well, I'm going to ask him this. And then you bounce off this and bounce off that. And like, it was such a fun and overwhelming and stressful, exciting moment of my career. Like, I'm in this room with like the who's of like wrestling media, and we're in there just like having a good time. Bailey was so much fun. She was like our favorite. Baron Corbin, he got released now, but he absolutely took more time than he should have to talk to us. He like our audio cut out for just that interview, and I walked back up and he's like, yeah, let's do it again. And he gave us more time the second time. He was a lot of fun. We met a lot of cool people there. And then, just being in the press box of that stadium was just unreal to me. I was like, am I supposed to be here? But I couldn't have done it without JPJ. I could have done it without, him and I like really coming up with a plan and like really running with it, and just like knowing, okay, it might look weird that two of us are going to go up and interview one wrestler, but nobody else is doing that. And if they say no, we've got a backup plan. But if we go in and we kill it, which we did, believe it or not, like we are actually like our first time was like they were very complimentary of like our style. They were like, oh, thank you so much. You guys stuck to your time. You did something different. The wrestlers seemed to really enjoy working with you guys. So it was really cool. It was a moment where it's like, yeah, we deserve to be here. Like, we earned it. We worked our asses off, but like, okay, cool. Like, it's no, we're in this now. So it was super fun to do that. And then the one that always will hold a special place in my heart is I got to take Owen, my son, to his first wrestling show. Big wrestling fan. I got to take him to a house show, and he had an absolute blast. He was holding up my first WWE sign. Bailey pointed out his sign in the crowd. So yeah, because we got pretty good seats, and like he got to meet Byron Saxton, and I met Byron Saxton. So it was a really fun moment, like side by side of like father and son. So yeah, like it's wild that I get to go to these things, but I'm super appreciative of it. And I think all the experience was an experience of a lifetime. And so.
No, that's awesome. And you know what? I'm jealous because I'm hoping one day I get to experience something very similar, and especially with the sun aspect. So
it worked out. It was a cool thing. Like I didn't realize how excited he was going to be until we got there, and he was like, "These are all the people I see on TV." I'm like, "Yeah." So awesome. And no, you're talking about being appreciative, and Pluggo, I am very appreciative that you've taken the time to stop by and then do another one of these. And for that, I thank you so much. We're gonna you mentioned drafts. I happen to love drafts myself. I am going to
do word association, but the key is I'm going to give you a sport or whatever, and you're going to tell me the first draft pick that comes to your mind, current or all time, whatever you like. So if I say kickboxing, hypothetically, you're going to give me who you think your top one is. It could be your personal taste or who you think is all time. It doesn't matter.
Like my favorite kickboxer? I don't have a favorite kickboxer.
Oh, that was
okay. I was like, I don't know kickboxing.
All right.
Okay.
First thing, content creation podcast. Who would you pick first?
Jesus, dude. Come on, man.
I got it.
That ain't fair. That ain't fair. I'm gonna hurt your feelings. There's too many, man. There's too many good ones.
Just say yourself and move on.
I'm not going to say myself and move on because I'm not that good at this. I get carried through this by everybody that works with me. Am I crazy? Chris Perish.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you money later. Pro wrestling.
Oh, of all time, CM Punk's my favorite.
That's awesome. How stoked are you to see him in the Rumble?
That'll be cool. I'm very excited. He's the reason I got back into the space, and like he's just my favorite, and I love everything he does. So I'm excited. I can't see him in Indy.
Football
player. Oh man, that's favorite football player, best football player. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco.
Ooh, nice pick.
I'm just gonna pick who I gravitate toward. I'm not gonna tell you. We can have GOAT debates all day, but that's
this ain't a GOAT debate. This is either if the draft was open and you got to pick anyone, whether it's your personal favorite or you want to go.
I'm gonna take favorite. I'm taking favorites every time.
This is Pluggo's choice in a way.
Fair enough.
I got three more. A baseball player.
Sammy Sosa.
Nice.
Or Ken Griffey Jr.
Ooh,
yeah, either one.
Have you ever seen Ken Griffey Jr. play?
No, I was not fortunate enough to get to see him play, but Sammy Sosa, I'm a huge Cubs fan, and he was the man, so easy enough.
Nice. All right. College football team.
Oh, Notre Dame.
Oh,
not Notre Dame. Not Notre Dame.
Not a Notre Dame.
Oh,
So you always have those like, if they're there and my team's not in it.
Currently Colorado. Because I like what Deion's doing over there. Shadur and Travis Hunter. I kind of just gravitate towards teams of that like not Notre Dame, and then I gravitate to another team. I don't have like a secondary favorite college football team because it's Notre Dame.
Okay. Musician.
Oh boy, that one's gonna be tough. I don't know. Heath Slater.
Oh.
3MB, baby. Let's go.
We're gonna try to. That's gonna be clipped one. All right.
3MB is the best. Get back together.
Last one. I think this one. Baseball hat, or just hat in general. What is your favorite hat? What is your favorite hat?
The Chicago Cubs World Series championship hat that I bought for me and my groomsmen for my wedding. That is my favorite hat. It's around here somewhere. But that one, and then I got a Texas Rangers cap back there that I buy. I buy sports teams based on which teams my kids play for. So if they play for the Rangers, I buy a Rangers hat. If they play for so hopefully they never play for the White Sox or the Cardinals, but if they do, I will respectfully decline buying that style hat.
It's funny you say that. My nephew actually plays for a team called
the
Cardinals. All right. No, that's kind of what I added. I just think it's always a great way just to kind of find out a little bit more about the person. But again, Pluggo, thank you so much for that. For this, I appreciate that. Hopefully down the line we can get you back on. We can shoot
Sure.
shoot the shit a little bit more just about the current state of wrestling. That would be a lot of fun. But until then, let everybody know what where people can find you, what you have going on, and if there's anything you just want to plug, please.
Yeah. Well, you said this is coming out on February 2nd, 1st, 2nd. Groundhog Day. Perfect. So the day before, while I'm at the Royal Rumble, we will be dropping for exposure. We'll be dropping an interview with Dynasty out of Canada. Mikey Truth and Jackson Roy stopped by, talked to Blair and I. It was awesome. You can find me at Pluggo _ on all social media platforms. There you can find it at B2Beards. I'm sorry, I say that wrong every time. It's at Between Two Beards on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. That's the show, but the title of the social medias is at B2Beards. You can find us there, knowing what we've got going on there. We will be in the Rumble, so we'll have a lot of different content coming out from that. So just stay tuned to all of our socials for that. And at For Exposure Pod, you can find, I do some writing as well. Now you can find my top 5 favorite things of the week at LoveWrestlingCA.com as well.
Awesome stuff. And everyone, I really say go follow this guy if you want not only a great laugh but just a great experience. I will put every aspect of my name on it. Pluggo is probably one. You are one of the funniest, most fun. I know they're the same thing, but different experiences. But also just most positive people I know. I love working with you in every aspect. Thank you so much for doing this. For everyone, remember, be happy, be healthy, and at the end of the day, be yourself because you matter. I'll see you next week.